We'll see what's up at Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport. The city's reached a compromise on the budget. Yay. But we'll begin with a conversation with our Chief of Police. Roll it, Kirk. Oh, the answer is money. What's your question? That's what's going on down at City Hall. We'll get to that in an upcoming segment with Councilman Dwight Hudson. We begin with a more somber subject, and I know it's been pretty sad for you guys to deal with, and that's the death of this Southern University student. You have now made 3 arrests in this case, and you and I haven't had a chance to sit here and talk about it. So first up, give people the latest on where we are.
Yeah, so first let me say extremely tragic event. Bright young man, had a lot of bright future ahead of him, so it's extremely tragic and sad. Heart goes out, of course, to his family, all his loved ones, all of Southern University, really, about this, because it's completely preventable and tragic. Like you said, we have made 3 arrests. Our investigation has led us to arresting 3 members of the fraternity that Caleb was pledging to. One that we arrested for hazing and also manslaughter, and then the other 2 were arrested for criminal hazing.
When you initially heard about this, obviously as the chief of police, when someone is injured or worse in this town, you hear about it almost before anyone else. But when you started getting the details of this one, such a young man who was actually on his way somewhere, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so again, I think the best word to describe it is just tragic and preventable. And when we start looking at the details of the case and from what we know from our investigation, what our investigation has led us to, allegedly, having to leave cell phones behind, being brought to this other place, this warehouse, lined up in a row, people taking turn punching him in the chest with boxing gloves. And then when he finally does collapse as a result of that, then no one calls 911. They change his clothes into some other clothes and then drive him off to a hospital and then leave him there. Don't even stick around to give a story. And then the story they do give, of course, at first is lies about playing basketball at a break park, and then our investigators have to get down to the truth of what actually happened.
Is there a potential for more arrests?
Right now, it's still under investigation. There's still a lot, I need to stress that it's still a very open investigation. We're still waiting for the finalized coroner's report, which could take up to another month, looking at final toxicologies and things like that. So it's still a very open investigation. We're still interviewing some people, and we're still asking if anybody else out there has some information to share with us. Please reach out. They can call us directly. They can call Crime Stoppers, give out some information, anything else that can lead us to more people that were present or anything else to get to the bottom of this investigation.
What about the other young men who were in the room? I mean, because there was more than 4 people there, and obviously you guys through your own due diligence have determined who may or may not have been involved, but what about those other young men who may have witnessed what happened to Caleb?
Yeah, so through our investigation, the 3 that we've arrested so far were directly involved with the hazing and actually even punching Caleb in the chest. And so the other people in the room, a lot of those were also people going through the process of trying to get into this fraternity. They were pledging, and from what we were told, as soon as Caleb collapsed, they were kind of escorted off into another room and didn't see as much. So, right now they're not under any kind of criminal investigation, but this is still a very open thing.
This did not happen on the campus of Southern, but this fraternity is associated with Southern. Have you spoken to leadership at the university? I know that they were at the headquarters last week for the press conference, but is there anything about those conversations that you could share?
Yeah, so I do want to give my hats off to Southern University and the district attorney's office. They've been great partners in this. Okay. Across the country, you've seen what other things have happened, and the university kind of shuts down because they don't want the bad publicity and don't want to be involved. Not the case with Southern. I've been on the phone with Chancellor Pierre multiple times a day, kind of exchanging information and keeping each other up to date, and they've just been an open book, been very receptive, making people available for interviews and encouraging people to come out to speak to us. So Southern University has been a great partner in this investigation, along with District Attorney Hillary Moore in his office.
Look, I've got a lot of friends who are members of fraternities and sororities, and they do tremendous work. If you had an audience with leadership for these fraternities, what would you say?
Yeah, so first I want to make clear that I don't think that this should paint a bad picture for any group, right? Especially fraternity or sorority organizations, or even this specific fraternity. Being a police officer, I know what it's like to be judged by the actions of other people, you know, like that might even be a police officer 1,000 miles away in another state, and we
might be a fair point.
Our profession still gets judged that way, and I don't think that that's fair when it comes to fraternities and sororities. They do great work. They do great community outreach, working with young people. So I think that they just need to remind themselves of their purpose and what they're here for, and don't let the action of a few put that stain on the entire organization.
Yeah, I look forward to those conversations here when time is appropriate. Right now it needs to be about Caleb, but I look forward to that. The Chief's going to do one more segment with us. We'll talk about what's happening public safety-wise here in Baton Rouge. Been a little busy lately. We'll get an update and tell you where you can go on the police department's website to find out information about crime. Did you know there was a dashboard? There is. I'll show it to you next. And here's where you can catch me all on social media if you'd like to be bored by somebody. So, you know, if you go to brpd.com, you can get information on the department, but it's a bit more analytical than that. There's a dashboard that has both year-to-date statistics and a rolling 7-day average composite of stats here in the city of Baton Rouge, and that's pretty well done. So, Chief, you know, you guys are transparent about what's happening here in the city and arrests and activity going on. What has happened in the last couple weeks, man?
Yeah, so I think transparent is a very good word for it. We get accused of not being transparent enough, but as you can see, it's very easy to get. You can get a rolling idea of where we're at, everything from thefts to robberies and assaults, all the way up to the shootings.
Yeah.
So 23 to 2024, I think it's important that everybody realizes we saw a decrease in crime. We had 2 more homicides in 24 than we did in 23, but our overall violent crime was down 8.5% and property crime was down 9%. So far, year to date this year, we've seen a 40% reduction in shootings and, and a 20 to 25% reduction in homicides as compared to this time last year. This past couple of weeks, we have seen an uptick in some shootings, everything from a 16-year-old shooting a 17-year-old because of a fight. We have him in custody, to domestic incident where we also have that person in custody, or 2 homicides that we had over the weekend, early this week. But overall, you know, I think it's important that people realize that the trend is going down, and I can't take the credit for it. I got to give all the credit to my officers for out there doing work that they're doing, and also the community for stepping up and kind of being involved.
What do you think is attributing to the increased number of younger people, and I'm talking darn near preteen kids, committing some of these crimes?
Yeah, so in 2024, we arrested 16 juveniles for committing homicides. That's not shooting at somebody, that's not injuring somebody, but actually killing somebody. 16 of them. And for 16 kids under 16 and younger, to be arrested for that crime, there's a lot of systems that had to fail those kids for them to get to that point.
That's right.
Whether it's home, church, school, all of these things not working for them to ultimately go down this life path to think that that's a good idea and make those choices, whether it's conflict counseling or whatever it may be. What we're really seeing is this trend of younger people, and what we're also seeing is a lot of these homicides is not really, 15 years ago it was very narcotics based. Now it's just, hey, we got in a beef over social media, or I go to this school and you go to that school, and we said negative things about each other, and that is what's leading to a lot of this violent crime.
Issues about emotional intelligence, and you and I have talked about this before. So in 2025, when your officers are engaging some of these young people now, there is a different approach you have to take, because it can go from 0 to 100 like that over nothing but a traffic stop. So how are you calibrating how Uniform Patrol directs officers to address and interact with our community?
Yeah, so I mean, the main thing we do is being a law enforcement criminal justice professional, right? Just being a professional at all times, whether it's being a professional writing a ticket, or being a professional saving someone's life, or being a professional putting handcuffs on somebody. It's about being a professional. With that comes training, and we're having to train our officers on this new trend, being aware of suspects, maybe even 14-year-old with a gun in his waistband, because we're seeing that a lot more often. The community also can do their part. Step up by keeping your guns secured, keeping your vehicles locked. Last year we had, I think, somewhere around 250 to 300 guns stolen out of vehicles, and the vast majority of those were unlocked cars. And those guns are winding up in the hands of these juveniles who are then committing crimes with them.
That's sad. Well, look, let's end on something positive. You've got the Citizens Academy going on right now. Lieutenant McNeely is offset, and he's already wrangled me for next week to come through
Yeah,
there
you need to be
and
there
spend
for
some
sure.
time over there. Are y'all going to have refreshments?
Yeah, we do. We have
all right,
some
I'm
refreshments.
Just making sure. Just
Some
making
Cokes
sure.
and chips.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Tell people about the Citizens Academy, what it is, and how they can sign up maybe next year for it or later this year for it.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have one again before the end of the year, but it's basically a way to kind of come and get a peek behind the curtain, see what it is to be a Baton Rouge police officer, see a glimpse of the training, but then really get to interact with a lot of our units and divisions and hear about what the homicide detectives do, hear about what canine officers do, hear about go get a view of our real-time crime center, go see the dispatch center. The training academy does a good presentation on this is the day in the life of a trainee at the Baton Rouge Police Department, and really seeing all the amazing things that go on at the Baton Rouge Police Department and why we're one of the few departments in the entire state that's CALIA accredited and reached that gold standard.
Love it, man. We'll have you back soon. Actually, I want to bring the C-suite out to BRPD and do it from inside of
that'd be
the
awesome.
Real-Time Crime Center.
This week at the Citizens Academy, they got a glimpse at taser training, and we had 9 of them volunteer to get tased.
Can I nominate some people?
Yeah, come on.
Let's talk about that during the commercial break. I don't want to tase this guy. He's going to come on next to talk about the budget compromise. Dwight Hudson is on with us next. And here's where you can catch the show. You can download the WAFB app, catch it early on Friday, or catch it on Friday night at 7, or replay Saturday at 3 p.m. So the Edwards administration got off to a somewhat inauspicious start as it related to the budget and this kerfuffle with the parish library system. But I mean, it was amicable through the process, and it appears that we now have some level of detente as it relates to the money. Dwight Hudson, representing Council District Number 9, is here to talk about that compromise. So where are you? Explain what the compromise is.
Well, we're ready to thrive, right?
Okay, all right. Nicely done.
So all of the parties have come together. There was great negotiations, at times intense negotiations, but at the end of the day, the stakeholders came together and made a plan that will work for everyone. It will give us the dollars that we need to stabilize our budget. It will give us the dollars that we need to invest in our employees and optimize our workforce, and then also invest in key departments. So we're really excited.
So this includes some one-time money and then some recurring money as well, correct?
Correct.
So what is your perspective on how the dollars raised are going to be applied to city parish operations, and of course the pay raises for both, we've heard about law enforcement and public works and other parts of the government?
Yep, so the most important part of it is the library millage. So the heart of the plan is a renewal and rededication of the 11.1 library millage. 8.3 of existing library millage will go back to the library, giving them about a $48 million budget. And then 2.8 mils will go towards parish-wide general purposes. That designation of parish-wide is really important, because what we're telling is people in St. George, Baker, Zachary Central, that your parish-wide tax dollars are going to go to fund parish-wide services, right? That does allow us to free up other dollars, though, in the general fund that are currently going towards constitutional offices to do some things in the city parish general fund budget. So again, chief among those will be stabilizing our budget in the face of the shortfalls that we expect for next year. At a later date, we'll be able to program those dollars into the different departments, but we will also include $13 million, which will fund a parish-wide pay raise for all employees, not just first responders, but those people in DPW, the library employees, everybody will be able to get a pay raise for that amount. But in unison with that, we're actually going to do what we're calling workforce optimization. So we want to get those benefit numbers right. Currently our benefits are about 70% of our payroll. That really should be closer to 15-20%, right? So we want to make those corrections where we need to, and do that before the pay raise goes into effect. And then we also want to tackle pension reform. So we've known for a long time at City Parish that we need to have a defined contribution retirement plan for new hires, and so we're going to do that before we put these pay raises into place.
Does this completely address the gap that was approaching us for the budget? I mean, do you feel comfortable that if the people of the parish vote for this, that we're in the clear?
Right, so that number is projected at $21 million that we were looking to be short. And yes, there's $21 million funding in this plan to stabilize the workforce and not have to do any sort of mass layoffs. Now look, the fact remains that we are losing a large portion of the parish that we're going to be providing services for. So there will, like we've said, have to be some workforce optimization. There will have to be some lateral movements among employees, right sizing of departments, and that sort of thing. We're committed to doing that, but we want to do it in a stable environment.
Yeah.
You don't want to try to optimize your workforce when you're laying off 600 people, right?
Right.
There's no way you can optimize a workforce that way. So that's why we're going to stabilize first.
I got about 90 seconds. I want to ask you about this specifically because chief among people looking to get a pay raise are law enforcement officers, right?
Sure.
But we've also heard about public works employees who don't necessarily make livable wages in some aspects. How do you do that? Because it could be a political powder keg depending on how it's approached.
Yeah, well, with this plan, we don't pick winners and losers in that regard, right? So I want to stress that $13 million figure is a parish-wide figure. So it includes law enforcement. It includes the lowest employees making the minimum wages, and it also includes everybody in the middle, right? So everybody sees a pay raise based on the pay raise study that we just did, those recommended amounts. But again, we're gonna handle the benefits at the same time. We don't want to give and then have to pull back.
Sure.
So we're gonna do it all in unison.
A little less than a minute. What did you learn from this process?
Diplomacy is possible in East Baton Rouge Parish, right? Look, I've never experienced this type. I've been here 9 years. I've never experienced this type of intense negotiation. But at the end of the day, us being able to come together and work toward a common goal. I've been very critical of the Council on Aging. I want to give them a tremendous amount of credit.
Absolutely.
They were proactive and coming to the table and saying, we see what you're doing. We want to take part in this.
I mean, they were
Huge
superheroes in the process. Superheroes. All right, so brother, we'll talk more about this as it moves down the road. All right, so listen, if you are so inclined to check out the C-Suite, you should. Next week's episode is really going to be fun because we're recording it at Alex Box Stadium. Come on now.
Nice.
Get that WAFB app so you're not left out. One of the more underrated aspects about living in Baton Rouge is that we have an airport that is just really on the rise, and it's grown so much over the last couple of decades. So let's talk about what's happening at Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport with Lewis Hubbard, who's the Assistant Director of Aviation at BTR. How's it going, man?
Great to be here. Pleasure to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about what's happening at the airport. I mean, a lot of travelers who are here or in the region use your airport to get directly to a destination or to connect to get somewhere else. How's it happening? What's going on right now?
A lot of exciting things going on. I tell you, for 2024, we had a record year. We finished with over 844,000 total passengers for the entire year. So to put that into perspective, that's about a 10.5% increase over the previous year, 2023. And about a 3% increase over 2019, which was the previous record. So we're definitely excited about that, definitely want to tout that to the community, and we're looking to really use that as a building block as we kind of move through 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I've seen that campus evolve so much over the last few years. What has been the thing you're the most excited about the last 5 years at BTR, in addition to the population of people flying?
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of things. We obviously have the new nonstop service that was launched in June of 2023 with American Airlines to DCA. That flight is definitely seeing some success. For 2024, it averaged a 77% load factor, which is pretty good. We still like to see that increase some. But I tell you, the back half of last year, we really saw, that kind of shift into another gear. That jumped from anywhere from an 80% to an 83% to finish out the year. So we think that service will continue to increase through 2025, and honestly, it'll be a catalyst to help attract and secure new air service as we move, into the future years for sure. So we definitely paid attention to that.
Mike Edwards and I had chatted about the possibility of other cities for BTR. Are there other cities that you guys are talking to?
Absolutely. We're constantly talking to the airlines and the airline planners about new destinations to bring in. The two that we've kind of circled, and we've kind of got this from the community, and what the community would like to see are Chicago service and leisure destination Orlando service.
Oh man,
those are the biggest.
Kirk, I know
things we've
Alyssa
got.
just stood up in the back. I know, but Orlando, man, I've flown into Orlando, and it would be great to do that out of Baton Rouge and not have to drive down to Kenner to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that aligns with the feedback we receive from the community for sure.
So the directs we have right now are Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, and Charlotte, correct?
Correct, and DCA.
And DCA, right?
Yes.
Those 5. Kind of audit that. How's it going with those cities right now?
Those cities are great. The airport has about an 83-84% load factor overall.
Yeah.
And so what that means is the flights that are departing and coming in, we're about 83-84% full.
Yeah.
That puts us in the top of the state for sure. And that also speaks to the community being behind the airport and air service, and like I said, pointing to the need for increased air service as well.
Now you mentioned that there is an event happening in April. Tell us about that.
Yes, we'll be having an upcoming airport town hall meeting, April 2nd. It'll be at the Howell Place YMCA.
Yeah.
It's really an opportunity for the community to come out, hear about some exciting upgrades that we have coming for the future of BTR, but also give some insight to the airport leaders as well, to kind of help shape what BTR looks like and how we operate moving forward as well.
What's your biggest goal as a group of leaders at the airport for the rest of 2025?
So the biggest goal, obviously, we'd like to. I say this is kind of rebrand the airport. We really want the community to understand that we're the community for the airport, right? And we grow as the community grows, as the community kind of gets behind it. And so every booked airline fare is a message to these airlines and these airline planners that, hey, BTR is primed and poised for new service. So that's the biggest thing for sure.
Look, it's convenient. It's right here in the capital city. There's, in addition to the DC flight, there's other flights you can get to as well. And the big thing is you don't have to drive as far to be able to get to where you're going. Well, look, brother, you're always welcome. And we talked about a little something as it relates to the podcast that we're not going to give away here right now, but that could be kind of cool next month. All right, you guys have a fantastic weekend. Some bad weather coming on Saturday, so be prepared for that. And we'll catch you next week here on The Clay Young Show.